Thank you. Good to see everybody. My name's Scott Bliss with Sandler down the Jersey Shore, New Jersey, and I'll let my partner, Mr. Trapani, introduce himself as well.
Sure, I'm Dave Trapani from Sandler as well, and I'm based in Princeton, New Jersey.
And thank you so much for joining us today. If you can put on your videos, we'd love to see your faces. It definitely makes it for a more engaging training. Even if you're eating, it's okay to chew while you're on camera. We don't mind. And I always say, if you're worried about having a bad hair day, you can't be having a worse hair day than me. So it would be great if we could see you. And there you go, Zach, right? You're like, that's it. All right, we go to the same barber. Awesome. But yeah, and if you can't turn it on right now, that's okay. Maybe at some point you can. It would be great to see you. But what we're going to do today is Dave and I are going to, AI is all over the place. It's been for a while. Many of you are already using AI. Some may be using it, not even realizing it's AI. But we're going to specialize this talk today more towards how to use AI in sales for salespeople, because that's who we are and that's what we do. So how do we kind of get an advantage? And something we're going to say a little bit further in the program, which I hear a lot, is Dave and I are constantly pestered with, will AI replace salespeople? And we want to let you know one thing. We do not believe that to be the case. AI will not replace salespeople, but salespeople that use AI will replace those that don't. Right, so we definitely want to try and utilize it, and it can definitely make things a lot easier for us. So I'm going to share with you a few slides and go over a couple of things, and Dave's going to go over a few things, and we're going to come back and do a few things together, and there'll be plenty of time to ask questions. And by the way, if you have questions, feel free to either raise your hand, shout them out, or put them in the chat. Either way, Dave and I will both take turns watching the chat, and it's okay to ask us during the presentation if you have questions. So please don't hesitate to do that. Everybody cool with that? All right, so what is artificial intelligence? For those of you that remember this movie, this was big. I don't remember if it was the 80s or early 90s when this came out, but great movie. And that's what a lot of people think about Skynet, right? Is Skynet is coming, it's going to take over the world. But this isn't necessarily artificial intelligence as it exists today. So, what is it? It's computer systems that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence, such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision-making, translation, etc. So a lot of different things from that aspect. And you're already using it today if you use Siri on your phone. Siri is artificial intelligence. Amazon Alexa, Google Home, that's all AI as well. Predictive text when sending a message. Have you ever voice texted something in your phone and it gets auto-corrected, or it hears your voice, it knows your voice, and then you use autocorrect to autocorrect words? Real quick funny story with autocorrect. And by the way, this is all AI. You have to be really careful with autocorrect, even when you still use voice texting. If you're on your phone, read it before you click send. I was sitting home on a Saturday morning, and one of my sons was out pretty early, and he sent me a text and said, "I'm on my way back home. Does anybody want any breakfast sandwiches?" There's a great breakfast sandwich place about a mile down the road from our house, and we all like the pork roll, egg and cheese sandwiches. So I asked my other kids if they wanted one. They said yes. So I voice texted back to my son, please bring home 3 pork roll, egg and cheese sandwiches. To which he texted back, WTF, what are you talking about? And I read what my voice text autocorrected to, and it said, please bring us home Puerto Rican cheese sandwiches. So let that be a lesson for you. Check your voice text before you click send, because sometimes it might not hear you correctly, and you might look a little bit foolish. Luckily, that was to my son and not to others. So definitely be aware of what you voice text. But that all is forms of artificial intelligence that we're all using today, and maybe we just don't chalk it up to AI because it's pretty simple type stuff. Okay. So when we ask what is AI, many people will say Chat GPT. And yes, Dave is going to take you through some live screen shares of Chat GPT and prompts and how to utilize it as a salesperson. And it's definitely part of it. Chat GPT is the craze today. A lot of people are using it. Many are using it properly. Some people maybe not so much. But Chat GPT is absolutely a big part of AI in sales. And what it is, it's generative AI. So generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that creates new content based on what it's learned from existing content. Right. So what do we mean by that? It's stuff that's already out there that, Chat GPT kind of scours the World Wide Web and it pulls in information. Right. So sometimes the accuracy of it may not be as accurate, as we want, but because it's generative, it goes out to other places and pulls things back in. And a little bit later in the session, we're going to show you a plugin for LinkedIn that uses somebody's LinkedIn information in their profile, and it generates what their personality type is and how you can now, when you contact them cold, you can start building a relationship with them based on what the LinkedIn profile tells you their preferred personality profile is, so you can adapt to them, right? Versus going after them blind with no information. But these are the different types of AI that's out there. So let's talk about a couple of different types of technology. Some are very simple, what I'm going to talk about next, that, to use in sales, and it's going to help you streamline the sales process. I think, the first thing I'm going to show you here, I already said this comment, will AI replace salespeople? No, but salespeople that use AI will replace salespeople that do not, for sure, right? So if you're a little bit older like Dave and I, you definitely have to get uncomfortable and start utilizing these things to help you stay young, stay relevant. If you're younger in your sales career, you're probably all over this and using it and loving it, which is great. And even some younger folks, it's hard for them to get out of their comfort zone. They don't want to learn new things, but these are definitely some things that you do want to learn. Going back to my sales career, I have notebooks and notebooks. I take a lot of notes when I'm talking to my clients, and I have in my file cabinets probably 2 or 3 dozen notebooks filled with information. I haven't looked at these notebooks in years, some of them, but I'm afraid to throw them out. Right, because I know someday I'm going to need it, right? Kind of like those pieces of old wood in your garage that have been there forever that you don't use, but you're afraid to throw them out because someday you're going to need them. There's a lot of things with AI today that people are using that can take the place of some of these old notebooks. And one of them, and the first thing I want to talk to you guys about, is a visual meeting assistant, a virtual meeting assistant. There's a bunch out there, and they're typically free. There's Fathom, there's Firefly, there's a bunch of different ones. And what this does is it records your meetings. And not only does it record your meetings, but it provides summary. If you look at this screen right here, it provides a summary of the meeting, the recording of the meeting, but it also provides a transcript of the meeting, transcript, summary, and the recording. And it houses it for free. Like, I know many of us use Zoom. I use Zoom for my training. Dave uses Zoom for his training. And if we record most of our training sessions, and it takes up space, and Zoom makes money off of us having to buy additional space if we want to save all the recordings. Most of these virtual meeting assistants, they don't charge you for extra space. And you can literally log on and you have all your meetings right there and all your notes right there and all your summaries right there. And you don't have to go thumbing back through notebooks. You don't have to take notes. You can literally, everything is recorded, it's summarized with transcripts. And if you're not using them today, take a look at them. Like I said, most of them are free. I think it's something that you should definitely take a look at if you're not already using it. And typically when we talk about these things, we get a couple of questions. So I want to, before I, send it over to Dave to talk a little bit about Chat GPT, I want to see if there's any questions so far about these notes takers or AI in general. Zach?
I have a question about the virtual meeting assistant. Are you being clear with your client that you are recording this? Because I'm under the impression that there is a lot of legal scrutiny coming down the pipeline because of these and people not wanting to be recorded?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking that. We absolutely let people know as soon as my notes taker pops on, as soon as my Zoom pops open, and you literally see the attendee there, it says Scott's note taker. And I will ask my client, do you mind if I record this meeting? And if you don't want to be recorded, it's absolutely okay to say so. And some people, very few, but some people say, yeah, no, turn it off. And that's typically sometimes if I'm having a coaching call with a manager and he's talking about some of his reps, or right, they might not want that stuff out there. If you were discussing sensitive financial information, social security numbers, account numbers, you probably don't want that out there to be recorded. So there's definitely some personal information or some things that you might not want recorded. But if it's just a standard business meeting where you're talking about, how you can help them, most people don't have a problem being recorded unless they want to talk about some sensitive information. Dave, I know you've worked with Mike Markulek to talk about in a little bit more detail. Maybe you have something to add to that.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of questioning as it relates to the virtual assistants. And Zach, I think your question is spot on. A lot of these tools on the front end will ask participants in the meeting if they want to be recorded. And we also encourage people to ask the question, hey, would you mind if we record our conversation? Whether that be training, but even with a sales conversation, I've observed hundreds of sales conversations where right out of the gate, they might say, hey, Zach, listen, I'm going to record this conversation today. I'll send you the notes over. I think in all of my observations, maybe a couple of times people have pushed back. But anything related to sensitive data, I think from a legal standpoint, and also from a protecting our privacy and information, we should probably use good judgment there when that's happening. If we are in the midst of a recording, cancel, delete. We don't want that stuff hanging out there in any different way. There is some also questions, and Zach, I don't know if this is what you're getting at, in making sure that these companies that house the information are above board. And there appear to be, again, from their sites and from what they share, is that they are protecting that data at the highest levels, although that's up to those third parties that we're using out there.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to consider when you're looking for these services. I've used these. I've gone down the legal rabbit hole, with our lawyers to make sure that we are, doing as you guys are recommending. I think it's important for everyone else on this phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely can get a little bit shaky.
Sometimes, because Dave and I do a lot of classes like this where, a lot of our clients are logging into our training sessions, and sometimes a client will not be at class that day, but they'll send in their notes taker and we kick it out, right? If you're not there, right, that's not a way to just say, I was kind of there, I sent in my notes taker, and maybe I'll listen to the notes later or watch the video later. We don't allow that. If you want to record our classes and you're there, we're okay with that because we record them as well. But for people to send their notes takers to attend things that maybe they have other appointments or they can't make it, we typically kick them out.
Hey, Zach, I want to go a step further, and hopefully, other people have this on their mind. The idea of using the note taker is really for full transparency. Hey, did I miss something? I'm going to share it in a selling environment. Let me make sure that we're all on the same page. That's one of the elements. From a selling perspective, we've had this situation where I've been working with a salesperson. They're now reviewing their call. And some of our clients use Fireflies and Fathom, others use Gong. But I've had situations where a client said, I went back and listened. At the 22-minute mark, the prospect said this to me. I didn't answer the question. I didn't handle it right. What should I do? And in pure Sandler fashion, jot it down, pick up the phone, and go have a conversation with them. If that little nugget that you may have glossed over might create an opportunity to win a piece of business have a better conversation with somebody. So it's really about full transparency and making sure that from a selling perspective, that we are having the most open conversations that we can possibly have.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
Yeah, they're definitely great tools. Now, I know we've got a number of folks that are, so Zach is the only one that's on camera, which
Mhm.
means we're going to call on Zach the remainder of the time that we allocate. I'm just kidding, Zach. We're not going to keep calling. But for others, if you do have a question, come off mute, show your face, or jot something down in chat. We're happy to answer it. Scott, is there anything else before we move on?
Any questions on note takers?
Now, maybe in the chat, folks can pop in. I'm going to jump over to do some chat GPT. I'll call it prompts. If maybe people can share in chat or maybe unmute yourself, how familiar are we with chat GPT? And that's where we'll primarily stay focused here today. Folks using it randomly or on a consistent basis. See, Zach's got a thumbs up. Zach, so consistently using it.
I like it to write, to help my writing. You know, if I have an email, how do I improve that email? How do I prompt it to, you know, to get what I want? It's a great tool.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, I love learning about it.
Yeah. Anybody else have experience using? So Zach, that's awesome. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. I noticed the folks from Ameritech unmuted. I don't know if that's an indication that you folks have a question or comment.
No, this is Daniel. I was actually just updating because I see it was just the company name, but no question. I was just gonna say I've used the Chat GPT just casually here and there, but I haven't used it in a sales kind of method.
Okay. So what I will go out, I'll go out on a little bit of a limb here, not much of a limb. What we've identified is that most folks are familiar with it, and that there's a high percentage of people that probably are not using, I'll call it ChatGPT, it might be Microsoft Copilot or other tools that are out there for fear of what they're putting in. Or for a little bit of fear of, I'm not sure how to structure what goes into these tools. And I would say from a sales training standpoint, Sandler is, I've got to believe we're on the cutting edge of using AI. We've got a lot of things that we've done. We've got a lot of things in the works. For example, using avatars in our system, where you can do coaching with a live avatar. That wouldn't replace Scott and I. That's an enhancement. But I think one of the things that I've observed about using ChatGPT is we label what goes into ChatGPT as a prompt. And Zach, I don't know if you've ever heard that term, put in your ChatGPT prompt. I want to dispel the theory or the belief. Prompts, to me, sounds like it's overwhelming. It's like when I worked in the corporate world and people would talk about KPIs or key performance indicators, and all of a sudden we would get nervous. What is a KPI? And we'd get locked in and get stuck on how to produce this. When we think about ChatGPT, it's literally put in your thoughts, your questions, and let's see what comes back. Throw away the term prompts. The system will respond to you pretty much with anything that you're looking for. The other little warning, or another little warning that we might have about ChatGPT is it can be a bit of garbage in, garbage out. So it is being consistently updated by what individuals in the world essentially are putting into the system. It can't tell the difference between right and wrong. And Zach, I won't speak for you, but my suspicion is, the fact that you're using it, it's a tool to help you craft a letter. You're probably the final say in what goes out. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I'm always kind of tweaking it, but the whole theory of input and output is important. If you want good output from it, you have to make sure you're very clear and specific on the input, and it will give you the best result.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and it's done other things than writing for me. I think data, refining data is a really cool tool that I've used with it lately. If I can, crawl a website or find a website that has, a bunch of emails and contacts on it that I might need to put into, a PeopleLinx type program. It can kind of spit out and clean it up. So it's just giving me like, just the email addresses if I want. But yes, input and output is the higher quality input, the better the output.
100%, 100%. So on the right side, or on the screen that you're seeing for me, which is my right-hand side, so if I look to the left, it's because I have multiple panels up on my screen here. I'm in the older version of ChatGPT. So I like to demo from within the free version. And because I've used the free version so many times, it's asked me to back down to 3.5. The latest version is 4.0. I'll still get good data back. So from a selling perspective, what might I want to put in here? I already created some tasks for ChatGPT to come back with, but I sell marketing services. After several meetings, a prospect sent me an email with the following information. Thank you for your assistance. We're going to hold off for the next 60 days. So here's an example of having ChatGPT craft a response email back to a prospect. And if we hit the enter button, well, let's see if it goes. Whoops, I have to hit the up button. Right out of the gate, it's going to give me a template for what to respond back to this prospect. So in a lot of selling scenarios, we are often, and Scott and I are doing coaching all the time, but we're often asked, how do I respond to this? How might I handle this situation? All I did for this, we'll call it a prompt, is take what somebody sent to me and plugged it back in. No rocket science here. And it puts together a fairly comprehensive response. Doesn't mean that it's 100% right. Doesn't mean I just want to simply copy and paste it. But what I do want to do is take this as a little bit of a guide. So from a selling perspective, I got a little bit of a coach going on here. If there's any questions, put them in chat or any thoughts. Now, I don't know how many folks are familiar with DISC, but DISC is a communications tool or a communications theory on how people are wired, different personalities, how people receive messages and how they might respond. And there's 4 different DISC styles, D, I, S, and C. So if I understand DISC a little bit, what I might want to do is craft a message that's tailored specifically to the DISC style of my prospect. So I can simply ask this ChatGPT to rewrite this response as if my prospect is a D DISC style. Now a D is a dominant individual, and DISC is, ChatGPT is smart enough to know to pull some DISC information. It is now fine-tuning this approach. And it's going to use words, terms, jargon that more closely reflect the individual that I'm sending this off to. Zach, you look like you have a curious face. Do you have a question or?
No, just reading.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, pick up on those things. We're doing training and coaching all the time. So again, relatively basic, but I'm getting something back that's comprehensive and a little bit better than maybe what my starting point is. I can share with you, I'm doing lots of training. Scott's doing lots of training and coaching. Our clients often sit there, and not even our clients. I just talk about general, folks in the general sales world. They get an email from a prospect. It's not a positive email. And then they sit there for the next 25 minutes figuring out what to write. And in 25 minutes, nothing gets done. In about 30 to 45 seconds, I can get a starting point. And probably within the next 4 to 10 minutes, I can probably get my draft ready and be prepared to hit the send button. That's where the AI certainly helps out. I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction here for a moment. Let's imagine we all sell something here. We are all in some version of sales. I'm going out to meet with a landscaping company. And I want to be better prepared to have a sales conversation. Now, some of us may sell into one industry. We at Sandler, we train folks from we're almost industry agnostic. We're speaking to so many different industries. But let's imagine I want to be a little bit better prepared, a little bit of a pre-call plan. I sell landscaping services. My target market is single-family homeowners. What types of pain issues do these types of homeowners face? Now, in true Sandler fashion, that's what we sell to, is the emotional pain. And now I'm going to get some of those data points back. Time constraints. The homeowner has a lack of expertise. They're worried about their property value. Some are worried about environmental concerns. Now, when I'm out and about having this sales conversation, I can tailor my conversation around those areas. I might open up the conversation. Oscar, thanks for coming off of non-video. Oscar, you don't have to respond, but let's imagine Oscar's looking for some landscaping services. I might open that conversation and say, hey, Oscar, the people that we work with are often worried about their curb appeal and property value. Some of them are worried about environmental concerns, and others are just looking for, they're not sure how to manage their landscaping, and they want to do something that's easy to take care of. Oscar, what bucket would you put yourself in? Now I can start to tailor my solution around potentially what he's looking for. So another area where AI plays a huge part. I'm going to give one more quick instruction into ChatGPT. And again, the reason I'm going a little bit overboard, we're going to do 3 of these, is that I think there's a fear. What I put in, will I know how to craft it? If you can see, it's really just my words. So, hey, maybe I'm looking to put together a prospecting plan. I sell insurance products. Put together a 30-day strategy to reach out to prospective customers. If I put that into ChatGPT, gives me a bit of a game plan. Just like that email I was talking about a few moments ago, where salespeople get stuck for 25, 30 minutes on what do I write, how do I respond? It's coming back with a game plan for me. I need to fine tune it. I need to do a little bit of more of a deeper dive, but it does give me a pretty fair place to get started. And that's the beauty of AI. ChatGPT Copilot from Microsoft, I've been playing around with that, is actually really cool. I'm going to hit the pause button for a second and just see if there are any questions related to ChatGPT. Anybody have any questions you want to put into chat? Throw something out here. All right, Scott, before I let you take back over, since I put everybody to sleep, except for Oscar and Zach, because I can see their faces, so they're still awake at least. There's a really cool feature in ChatGPT. And if you notice at the end of all of my instructions, I'm getting some bulleted responses. And I'll hit 2 more quick things here related to ChatGPT. In the custom instructions, so what I did is I went to my profile here. I simply click on it. There's a button that pops up called custom instructions. And I can give ChatGPT a little bit more instruction how to provide me better responses. So I quickly put in, I own a sales training company. Here's what our clients look for. But here's what I love is, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? And I can enhance this lots of different ways. After responding, please summarize the response with 3 to 4 bullets. GTP should remain neutral. And if you notice at the end of every one of my responses that I'm getting back, I'm getting those 3 to 4 bullets. So the beauty is ChatGPT can throw a lot of stuff at me, but if I want to just quickly get an answer, I can do that here in a heartbeat. Super cool. Now, I don't know. Hey, Oscar, can you unmute for 1 second? Oscar, which one of your favorite vacation spots?
Catalina Island.
What island?
Catalina, out here in
Ooh.
Los Angeles.
Nice.
Wasn't that from Step Brothers, the Catalina wine mixer or something like that, right? The movie Step
I
Brothers.
actually got married on the Catalina Island during the Catalina wine mixer.
Really? There you
Sweet,
go.
sweet. So let's see how good ChatGPT is. Plan a 7-day vacation to Catalina Island. Include dinner for 4 nights at exclusive restaurants. And, you know, again, having fun with ChatGPT, this is going to blow me away. It's going to tell me exactly what I should do for the 7 days that I'm there. It's going to pick out restaurants that I should go to. Avalon Grill, the Lobster Trap, Mount Ada. Are these good places, Oscar?
Yeah, it's done a good job.
It's done a good job. All right, so it's Oscar approved, but I'm going to a new vacation spot. This is what's in ChatGPT. There's ChatGPT. There's tons of content in here from a selling perspective, from a leisure perspective. Now, I want to go back to one of the warnings that Scott gave us. You know, we work with a security company, and one of the warnings that they share is you never want to put personal or private confidential information in here. Everything you're putting into this system becomes part of the system. So you don't want to say, here's my contract for Oscar Escobar. You know, I'm planning to charge him this amount, and here's, you know, his social security number. Do not put that in. It will not come back out. You're creating a serious risk problem. So you do want to be somewhat generic when you're putting things in. Don't copy and paste people's names. That will go out to the universe and it'll come back that way. There's a host. I've got a dozen different samples of things we can plug in here. My objective is pointing out it's relatively easy to use and it's got a lot of sources. It's got a lot of information in there. Does it make it right? No. There's a lot of things we can do from a Sandler perspective and say, how might Sandler sales training handle this? And it'll kick back information from our site. So it's pretty cool. We'll never replace Scott and I. We're just too good for this, but it is a great starting point for what we're doing. Any questions or thoughts here? Comments? Scott, I will oh, sorry. Oscar?
The only thing I'd add is that I use ChatGPT a lot, and it responds to, you can respond to its response. So for example, you have that 30-day plan and it showed like social media approach. Well, then you can take your response back to that and go like, all right, for that social media days, whatever, 18 through 22, come up with X amount of posts for this specific media type. And so it's really good to have that, it's a back and forth conversation from a starting point from that very first prompt. So it's a really good tool.
Yeah.
Not only just for a blanket start, that you can go back and forth and build on it.
Excellent add, Oscar. You know, we can play back and forth, communicate with it. I will throw one other thing just based upon what Oscar said. I'm not going to do what he just told us, but keep in mind, you can have that conversation to fine tune. But I know a lot of folks that do blog posting, LinkedIn articles, things like that. Here's draft me. I sell financial services. Draft me 150-word blog post, and you know, on the market, and it'll come back with this. And very similarly, I can say move this to 250 words. You know, I can play games back and forth. So lots of features built into here. We certainly could spend hours on this, but for now, Scott, I'm going to kick it back over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And just a couple of things to add to this where I know I've used it and my family has used it as well. I took my LinkedIn, I wrote my LinkedIn profile, you know, years ago, and you know, it was a little bit different. So I would sometimes I copy and paste my LinkedIn profiles for the different jobs I've done or different things I've done over the year, and I'd put it into ChatGPT with the prompt of formalize or bullet point, clean up, right? And it just makes everything look better. And and it's all copy and paste, so easy to do. Then you copy and paste it right back into your LinkedIn. I have 4 kids that are all, you know, 25 to 21. What do they all need? Resumes, right? You know, I used to have to sit there and help them write their resumes. And, you know, now we utilize ChatGPT. The thing I want to warn you about, still customize it. Still look at it, because if you write in there, write me a resume for a 4-year Navy veteran who was an aviation services technician. Well, anybody that does that is going to get the same resume, right? So you still have to customize it, make it yours. Don't just copy and paste direct from ChatGPT, and I consult with a number of my clients on hiring practices for salespeople. And typically when they get a certain, certain way down the path, they will have to do like a 30, 60, or 90-day plan, just like Dave said. And they put it into ChatGPT, and then you have 3 or 4 people submitting the same exact plan because they all got it from ChatGPT, right? So that's an easy way out. You still want to manipulate it a little bit, play with it a little bit, make it yours, right? But it's just a tool that really helps you, in selling immensely, without a doubt. So if you're not using it today, utilize it, and you'll be amazed at some of the things that you'll get from it. So I'm going to show you one other thing. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me for a minute while I do this. I do this a different way with a different camera. Okay, so let's see. That's not the camera I want. There we go. Now I'm going to share this with you. So I'm on LinkedIn right now. Everybody should be able to see my LinkedIn screen. I'm going to hide this self view so you don't see my beautiful picture there. So if you see my LinkedIn here, we do a ton of prospecting on LinkedIn, as many salespeople do, and probably should if you're not. And I want to be able to, I mean, when you think about prospecting on LinkedIn and when you think about email prospecting and everything, I mean, we get so many prospecting messages on email and LinkedIn. They all very much look the same. So how can you start differentiating things a little bit? And it's the way you approach your prospects, right? It's Dave mentioned before with the landscaping, a landscaper can walk up to your door and say, hey, I'm a landscaper. I'm in the neighborhood. I was working on your neighbor's stuff. Anything I can do to spruce up your garden, right? My wife asked me to brighten up the garden one day, so I planted a few bulbs. Right, there's a really bad joke for you, but but anyway, Dave said, hey, what are the pains that people are looking to solve when they hire a landscape engineer or a landscape architect? And it was all about curb appeal, and it was all about putting in the right perennials or different things. So when you're having those conversations, you're, instead of talking about features and benefits and how great you are, you're talking more about potentially the pains you solve, why people hire you, and that's differentiating yourself right off the get-go, right? So when I'm here on LinkedIn, let's say I want to prospect Ashley. Ashley is someone that I've done some research on, and I want to contact, someone's in the waiting room trying to get in, and I want to contact Ashley, and I want to build a rapport with her. So what I'll do is I'll pull her up here on LinkedIn, right? And I'll click on her profile here. And I use a plugin called Humantic AI. And what Humantic AI does is it gives me this great report with information on Ashley. It basically tells me, based off of her LinkedIn profile, the things that she wrote and that she has on there. It tells me a little bit about her personality profile. It tells me how long she's been, in business per se, and, just guesstimates, right? Job level. But this thing right here, it says 100% confidence that she is what they call an organizer, right? Now, Ashley may or may not agree with this. I'll download this and send it to you, Ashley, and you can read it and maybe, play with it a bit. But when you kind of look at this, as a matter of fact, I am going to download it. Well, no, I'll do that later, right? But it gives me information on Ashley, all pulled from things that are online about her, mostly LinkedIn. And it kind of tells me about our styles, my personality style, my behavioral profile compared to hers, right? So this kind of says we have a very similar personality profile. So it kind of says, hey, be yourself, right? She's very similar to you. So when you interact with her, right now you're already on a good path there. So be yourself. You don't necessarily have to do anything special or outside of the ordinary that you would normally do. And it gives me information down here on how to sell to her, when I'm cold calling her, what types of pattern interrupts that I should use, a polite and formal approach. Don't sound over friendly, right? Or don't be too aggressive. Talk a little bit slower. Keep a calm tone when I'm speaking with her. right? And it's given me all this guidance on how to build rapport with her, even if I get her on the phone or the messaging I'm sending her through email or social media. It's pretty much giving me a map here on how to win. So I actually might get hundreds of emails per day and only read 15 of them. And mine might be one of those that she reads because it's being a little bit tailored more towards her and her behavioral style, all taken off of LinkedIn. Right. And here's another beautiful part. So not only does it tell me what her disc style is, like Dave mentioned before, because he went into Chat GPT and said, formulate an email to as if you were talking to a D on the disc. Well, I can do the same thing and say, formulate an email for Ashley on our sales training services, formulate it to resonate with an S disc style. Right. And then it'll help generate that email. I'll manipulate it a little bit, change it around, but guess what? I can also do it here. I can personalize this message right here and start typing in what I want to say. Then I can click personalize, and it will personalize it to match Ashley's style. Right. So, I'll just give an example. I'll say, hi, Ashley. We are a sales and management. Sorry, I can't spell. My thumbs are too big when I'm typing. Training and professional development organization. We help prospecting. I'm just making this up right now. Shortening sales cycles. Building better communication. Not sure if you or your team has an interest in learning more. Right, and then I'll click personalize, and it'll change it up a little bit and maybe match it a little bit more towards her style. Right, and I'll click, okay, I'll take it, and it changes it up a little bit. Right, or that's to an individual or to a personality type. Right, now let me personalize it towards personality type. So when you know the personality. Right, so this will do it right here within the Humantic AI system, or it will do it. You can do it in ChatGPT and then copy and paste it into your email campaign, right? And this is pretty inexpensive. Dave, what is Humantic AI? About $800, a little less, I think. You're on mute.
It's about $500 per year for that system that plugs in, and it plugs into your CRM in many cases as well.
Right.
If you're using a CRM.
Right. So pretty inexpensive to kind of give you a heads up, right? Or a little bit of an advantage, because I'm prospecting Ashley, but probably so are 20 other people. Right. And there may be 3 other sales training companies that are prospecting her, right? And it's not so much even just a competitor to competitor from a sales training perspective. It's all these other people that might be trying to, get in front of Ashley to sell them their products or services, right? So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to differentiate yourself? Humantic AI for selling gives you a little bit of that advantage to know the person a little bit more, right? I want to ask if there's any questions as it relates to this specific piece of AI. Do we have any questions on that?
No question, but a comment. That was super cool. I'm definitely an organizer also, so nailed it.
Yeah. Now here's the thing, right? I put in Zachary in LinkedIn and I said, oh, let me use Zach. He's on the call. And Zach's LinkedIn profile isn't beefy enough for it to determine what his style is. Right. So Zach, I don't know if you do a lot of business on LinkedIn or if you want to do a lot of business on LinkedIn, but it basically said it can't give me any results.
That's great. Trying to scrub myself from the internet. So.
There you go, right? Right. And then also this, I've had some people say this to me. Well, Scott, I didn't write my LinkedIn profile, my assistant did. Right. So, maybe it's a little bit wrong, but I don't know too many people that have others write their complete LinkedIn profile. But if that's the case, it might give you a little bit more information. But this definitely gives you a bit of of a head start with regards to that. And I want to show you something else that you know, if I wanted to message Ashley in LinkedIn right here, if I click on message and I send her a message right here, there's something in here. If I start typing, now it's not going to pop up. I think I can click send on this, and ChatGPT usually pops up. It didn't just now, which I don't know why it didn't, so I'll have to look on that. But typically, when I type a message into LinkedIn, I use a lot of LinkedIn messaging, a lot of voice memos in LinkedIn, and a lot of direct videos on LinkedIn, and it will pop up. Do you want us to personalize this more? Like literally right in LinkedIn. I don't know why I didn't just do that to Ashley or not.
Hey,
But,
Scott, before you move on, can
Yeah.
you also show the posting piece? I don't know if we were gonna get, but now that has the AI for posting. So
Oh,
people-
that's what it was. It wasn't in messaging, it was posting. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me do that. Let me go to I'll go to myself and then I'll go to post. That's what, thank you for correcting me on that, Dave.
Okay.
So now, when you're in LinkedIn and if you want to post something, so here's my post. If I want to create a post, I can type something and you see down here it says rewrite with AI. That's what it did, not the messages, but the posts. So I don't know if you all see that right there, but I can start typing in what I want to post. And before I click post, the AI generator will clean it up a little bit, make it sound a little bit better. This is all AI. Siri, all AI. Alexa, all AI. Right? When you're talking to your significant other about signing up for yoga, and then a half hour later you're on your phone and you start getting ads for yoga, that's AI. That's AI. My phone's just beeping because I said Siri, and my phone's going, how can I help you? How can I help you? Because I said Siri. Right?
all of my
So,
devices went off.
you know, so again, all different things in AI. So any questions about Humantic AI or LinkedIn or any of this type of stuff? We got a few minutes left, and Dave and I have a couple more things we want to talk about, but we want to make sure we answer your questions, make sure that this, 60 minutes was really good use of your time. Because if it wasn't, Ashley and Natalie won't invite us back. All right, let me go back to something else here. Okay. Bear with me. Dave, I'm gonna go right into Deal IQ.
Yeah, let's wrap up with that. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so Deal IQ. So what is Deal IQ? Deal IQ essentially, it's a software for your deals in your CRM. Clients tell us all the time that our forecasts, our sales forecasts, are so prevalent on the information that our salespeople are putting in there, and sometimes they're putting things in there just as placeholders, and sometimes there's a bunch of stuff in there that is just kind of like clogged up in the middle, and it's not coming anywhere near towards closure. Some of the things have been in there for months. And the reps don't have updates, the reps can't get back in touch with the clients, and there's just real no validity to what's in there. I'm not saying everybody and every opportunity, but a lot of companies have to build their forecasting on what's in the CRM, right? And they have to build production on what's in the CRM. And really, they want to have predictability of what their quarters are going to close at or their months are going to close at, especially publicly traded companies and even private companies. They want to know, what's my revenue going to be? What can I predict my revenue to be? Dave and I have to do this all the time, not only for our businesses, but we teach our clients how to do it as well. And Dave, please jump in on this, right? But Deal IQ is a software that plugs into your CRM, and I believe you can use it as a standalone as well, right, Dave?
Yep,
Not only
that's
plug
correct.
in to your
Yep.
to your CRM, and it really just gives you, if you can follow the guidelines that this gives you, we call this the 7 imperatives. And behind each imperative is 5 additional questions that for every every question that you can provide an answer to, it gives you greater predictability into closing the deal. So with these 7 imperatives, and I'm not able to share with you the 5 questions behind the 7 imperatives because that's their intellectual property. But what we can share with you is a little bit on each of these imperatives. Like imperative number 1, do you know the buyer? When I say, do you know the buyer, do you know exactly who they are? Are you talking to the right decision makers? Have you uncovered the pain? Do you know the need? Do you have the right solution? Right. So it's kind of like recognizing and fully engaging the buyer. Discovering, imperative number 2, discovering and understanding. Are you connected with all the influencers? Maybe these influencers aren't involved in the buying decision, but they maybe can influence it, or maybe they're a champion of your product, or maybe a competitor's. Imperative number 3, and a lot of salespeople don't take the time to understand this one. Do you know who you're competing against? Who else of your competitors are they speaking with? And sometimes salespeople are just afraid to ask that question. It's none of my business. They don't have to tell me that. Right? But if you know who you're competing with, and then you start being able to help establish your strategic advantage. And if you know anything about your competition, you can start asking questions of them of why might we win? Or why might we lose? Why might we lose out on this opportunity to the competition? Right? What are potential risks and pitfalls? Do we have a definitive dates established, milestones? And is there a strategic business advisor that can, continue and help and build that relationship with the buyer? And the reason why this is important is this page right here. When you look at this chart, right? For all of the 5 questions answered on who is the buyer, if you have answers, definitive answers to all 5 of those, your close rate is upwards of 80% versus only 22% if you only have 1 or 2 of the 5. Same thing with who are the influencers. If you know the influencers, your close rate has increased up to 81%. Who we're competing against, 76% to 46%. You don't know. Right. So
Scott, if I could jump in for a second.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, this is not a Sandler tool. It's another company outside of Sandler. When we are teaching sales process, this is ultimately what our objective is, to align the sales process to close the gates and flick the levers that say we have high probability to win. It's a very manual process when we do that. In other words, we rely on the accuracy of the salesperson and our objective or subjective view of what's going on. When you plug it into artificial intelligence, it's completely objective. And now the data learning, the machine learning starts to kick in as more data goes in, and it starts to say for each individual company and or potentially salesperson, it starts to say what imperatives need to be completed or what questions need to be closed out. And instead of being a leader that guesses at predictability, it actually takes that out, creates an objective machine learning system to tell you what levers to pull and which ones are going to create the highest potential impact for an individual or an organization. So super powerful stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, more information can be, just contact Ashley or Natalie or come to Dave and I directly if you want any more information on this kind of stuff. And really we're coming up on time here, and I'd love to leave, Dave, unless you think there's anything else we need to talk about. I'd love to leave the last five minutes or so for some engagement, some questions, some comments, or at the very least, some key takeaways of, based off of this conversation, what are you going to start doing that maybe you're not doing today, right? As far as using AI for salespeople. So any thoughts there on what you're going to start doing today versus what not? Zach, you want to go first?
Use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. Nice. Key takeaway. So since you already kind of used Chat GPT and things like that, or is there anything that kind of piqued your interest that said, you know what, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to use this a little bit differently?
I'm going to spy on people on LinkedIn with that new platform. And
Yeah. Absolutely. You know what? I have a client said to me, well, that's not kind of like stalking. No, it's out there. It's all information that's out there. And if it helps you differentiate yourself, right? A lot of times, by the way, people don't only, buy your product and service because maybe it's the cheapest price, right? They will pay more money. And think about yourself in your own personal life. You won't always buy the cheapest. You're going to buy the thing that you think will work better, that you want, that you're more attracted to. And sometimes you might buy something and spend a little bit more money on it because you liked the salesperson. You thought the salesperson was great. They asked you a lot of great questions, gave you a lot of information, right? So any advantage that we can get as sellers that can differentiate ourselves, it's out there. We should go get it for sure. Harold, I don't know, Harold, if you want to come off mute, if you have anything to share on anything maybe that you took away from today that you might start using if you haven't in the past, both Harold and Frank.
Yeah, I definitely like I'm all about technology. I think that's the secret of compete on what we're currently living. So yeah, all good information.
Excellent. Thank you. Frank?
So I've been using ChatGPT for some of my marketing and things for a while, probably not enough. So it's a great reminder to use it more often. It was great to learn about some of the LinkedIn connections. I was not aware of that. And I know I'm not getting all the benefits out of LinkedIn that I should be. So this is definitely helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Frank. Guys, outside of that, thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. It was a pleasure to meet you all. And if you have any questions on Sandler sales training, reach out to Dave and I. We'd be happy to answer any questions for you. And it's great meeting you all.
Yeah, and Scott, just one last thing. We do have related to some of the tools and also some of the Chat GPT information. We've got some great handouts that we can either, if you connect with us on LinkedIn, we can certainly send them out, or we can also pass them through Ashley and Natalie for distribution. Some pretty good cheat sheets that exist related to the tools.
Yeah, find us on LinkedIn, follow us. We post a lot of great sales related content, and we'd be happy to have you as connections on LinkedIn.